Hi guys, it's Dylan from Bijou Diamond Jewellery in London with another watch video, and today we're taking a look at my predictions for the Rolex 2023 releases. Sorry for the lack of videos recently. These videos do take time and I haven't always got the chance to do them, but I've built a little backlog now of videos that I can release over the next few weeks, so stay tuned. 2023 is an exciting year for Rolex, and I'm expecting some cool releases because it marks the anniversary for two of their most important watches in their collection, the Submariner and the Daytona. Submariner is celebrating 70 years and Daytona is celebrating 60 years. So big anniversaries for their biggest models. So hopefully we see some cool stuff coming. In the last couple of years, Rolex has released a teaser video a couple of days basically before their release date. And in this teaser video, we see tiny little moments of each watch and tiny details of each watch they're releasing. So lots of people have been going crazy since they released that and trying to analyze the videos. And I'm just going to give you my analysis of that video before we then talk about what I think maybe is coming out. So when the video starts, we see some ice, which immediately to me says Explorer. And the first render we see is undeniably an Explorer, so that confirms that definitely. And we can see that's definitely an Explorer by looking closer at the dial. Down at 6 o'clock, we can see that very obvious 6, which is exactly what an Explorer features on that dial. The first thing I noticed though on this render was the bezel. For me, this looks like a black ceramic bezel. But lots of people haven't mentioned this or looked at that at all, so it makes me think maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, that was the first thing I noticed, so that's interesting. So let's see if that does come out. For me, it's something that I've thought was going to happen for many years now, is a ceramic bezel, especially for the Explorer 2. Because the Explorer is designed to be worn on expeditions or in rugged environments, it would only make sense for that to feature a ceramic bezel. We've got watches like the Daytona, which is a much more dressier style watch that's never really designed to be worn in kind of rugged or environments or banged around in dangerous environments. It's just meant for racing or measuring racing. So the fact that that's got a ceramic bezel but the Explorer doesn't is a little bit strange. So let's see if they maybe add that ceramic bezel onto that watch. I think that would be brilliant. If not, then like other people are saying, we've got a larger version coming. After that, we've got some images of water, which obviously suggests a Yacht Master or a Submariner. And obviously this being the Submariner's 70th anniversary, hopefully it's a Submariner that we're seeing there. But this is really different if it is a Submariner than anything we've seen before. There's two things that really stand out about this render. The first thing is the fact it's got an all brushed case. We've got brushed sides rather than polished sides, and we've got these kind of beveled polished edges. So it's pretty much all brushed case, and we don't have anything in the collection at the moment that has that. So that's a totally new model or design for a model. The other thing that immediately stood out to me was the bezel is exactly the same or very similar in its design to the Yacht Master, in the fact that we have that 3D ceramic bezel. With the numerals being three-dimensional, they're kind of raised from the actual surface, which is, again, if that is a Submariner, it's totally different to anything that we've seen. What I couldn't work out though, from this bezel is which model it is, because it would give it away, you know, what specific numerals we're seeing on this bezel. But this bezel had a 0 or like a circular numeral there on the edge of the bezel near the crown that doesn't marry up to any other model that we've got in the collection now, the way it was arranged. One thing that makes me think that maybe this is a Submariner, it's a special release, is there's been lots of talk about titanium recently, ever since the Deep Sea Challenge got released. And that makes me think perhaps this is a Submariner in titanium to celebrate 70 years that has an all brushed case, because often titanium does look better in brush finish. So let's see. I mean, that would make sense, obviously paired with a new style bezel as well. Could be a special standalone model on its own. Like we see with the Deep Sea Challenge. Moving on after that, we see an orange dial very close up with like a yellow gold, Rolex logo on there as well. The way that the crown is sat very close to the top of the dial, in my opinion, I immediately read this as being right at the top of the dial, but looking closer, it could also be right next to a day window on a day date. So we could either be looking at a Datejust or a day date, basically. The way the crown is right at the top, we only see that without small index or indices above it. We only see that available on Datejust. So yes, it's either day date or Datejust that we're looking at here. I hope it's a day date, because that would be absolutely beautiful. If we have that combination available for rose gold, white gold and yellow gold, I think that would look incredible. Moving on after that, we see a green kind of bluey dial. Again, the way that the logo is arranged, the fact it's in rose gold, that eliminates certain watches in the collection firstly. The way that it's positioned relative to the actual Rolex writing underneath it means that it can only really be a sky dweller, and the actual hand of the watch as well that we see ticking around, and also the indice or the index that we see on the top left of the image with the white inlay suggests that it has to be that. Based on all those arrangements there, it has to be a sky dweller. So we've got some sort of cool sky dweller coming, which is really nice, and I like to see the rose gold with that blue green dial. That's going to be a beautiful combination. I can't wait to see that as a whole piece, especially if they pair that with a really nice leather strap in a matching color. That's really, really cool. The next shot we see is something that's pretty open for anyone's interpretation. It's literally just a brushed bracelet, and we've obviously got Submariners, Explorers, many other watches in the collection now with all brushed bracelets. So that doesn't really give anything away. Hopefully that's a Submariner, that's what I'm hoping for. And it's alluding to that titanium one that we spoke about earlier on. Next shot after that, we see a very close up of a yellow, gold and black GMT Master. This is 100% a GMT Master from the image. I think it would be interesting to see how they've revisited this model. Obviously we had the 116713 LN a while ago, which was a bimetal steel and yellow gold GMT Master 2. And it featured a black bezel. It'd be interesting to see if maybe they're revisiting that or changing that up and maybe doing or continuing with the current collection with the dual tone bezels. That would be really, really nice. I'd love to see that if we maybe had a black and or half black, half brown, or half black, half yellow to match the yellow gold. That could be a really interesting combination. We could equally be seeing an all black bezel with yellow gold, full yellow gold case. So that could also be a new option. The next watch we see is a close-up of a crown, and it looks like a Cellini based on the kind of rounded shape of that crown. That's only available on the Cellini, and the polished case, again, also really that styles just on the Cellini. The thing that's different though is we don't have the miniature beveled edge that we have on the Cellini in the current collection. So it'd be interesting to see what they're doing with that, or if they've changed this up to be a more simple model perhaps, maybe a less complicated time-only model. And it's obviously in yellow gold on this render as well, versus the current collection one being in rose gold. Next we see a light blue dial, and this has to be a Daytona, not just because of the light blue dial, but the actual smaller indices, the tiny markers that have individual second markers, and then the larger 5-second markers. The way that's arranged in the dial, that's only available on Daytona, so it has to be Daytona. And that ice blue dial does suggest that it is maybe a 70th anniversary Daytona, because obviously last 60th anniversary in 2013, we saw the platinum Daytona celebrating 60 years of Daytona. So yes, maybe this is their style of celebrating Daytona for anniversaries, is to release an ice blue dial. The icy dial on this watch though in the render appears to be on a gold case. It's really hard to tell because the blue obviously reflecting off the gold can make gold look very cold, and therefore actually in certain shots this looks like white gold. It's definitely to my eyes not platinum or steel. It appears to be a yellow gold, rose gold or white gold. Yeah, interesting to see what they do with that. That's obviously going to be available in the higher end models. Obviously we all would hope that we could see that available for steel, but I don't think that's going to happen. So that concludes looking at the teaser video. Obviously all the different renders are up for interpretation from anyone. Lots of people have different ideas of what we're seeing there, but that's my interpretation from looking at the finer details and what's currently in the collection that matches those kind of renders. So now looking at what people have predicted and thought about, lots of people have talked about titanium this year, thinking that Rolex is going to release some sort of titanium models, whether that's Daytona or Submariner or Yachtmaster or whatever. Lots of people even talked about a titanium Explorer as well. I think that's off the back of the release of the Deep Sea Challenge that they released in the Sea Dweller collection, which is in titanium. And it is cool to see Rolex venture outside of their standard materials that they always use, steel, platinum, golds. So that's nice to see. I'm hoping that yes, they do release a titanium Submariner. I think that could be a great addition. I saw a fantastic render featuring like a single red, so almost like a vintage Submariner with the red Submariner writing. I think that would be a great option for them. It's an easy model for them to create, and it's a nice nod to some heritage models. as well as bringing out a new, style of Submariner. So hopefully we see something like that. Obviously, we always hope for a Oyster Flex steel option, like a Oyster Flex Daytona in steel would be incredibly popular. Let's see if they do anything with that, but or even an Oyster Flex Submariner could be really cool to see as well. Again, I don't think they'll do it, but would be really cool. We often see Rolex looking at green as a theme for Submariner for new releases, or for anniversary releases. So interesting to see if they maybe bring out some sort of green dial or green bezel combination for the Submariner. I don't think they'll revisit the Hulk because they've only just discontinued it, so it wouldn't make sense for them to do that. I think if they were going to do something green in Submariner, it'd have to be something maybe like a white gold version with a green bezel and green dial. Interesting to see what Rolex does with the Daytona. We always hope for more interesting dials for the steels rather than just the white and the black. I think this is difficult though, having the black ceramic bezel. It's difficult to pair colours with that and make them look good. If you look at, for example, the Oyster Flex Daytona in white gold with the black bezel, which is the most similar to what we're trying to achieve there from the steel, the difference with that is that we always have very neutral toned dials. And I think that would be the only way that Rolex would do it, if we offered if they offered some sort of grey dial or a neutral tone dial. That would be the only way. But yeah, I would love to see an Oyster Flex steel Daytona. I think that would do incredibly well, for sure. Some people have predicted a right-handed VT NR, so like the green GMT Master that we got last year, which is in like a left-handed version. So the crown is on the opposite side. Interesting to see if we maybe get one with the crown on the right-hand side, a standard version this year. That could be an easy update for Rolex to do, who knows? We always get a few new Datejust styles. That's just pretty standard practice for Rolex. They always chuck a few Datejust styles in. So that includes looking at the predictions and seeing what I think. I think overall it'll be interesting to see how they celebrate such an important anniversary of these two watches. They're two kind of powerhouse watches, Daytona and Submariner. Soon we'll find out, and I will do a video going deep in depth of the Rolex releases and also looking at some Tudor models as well. Thanks guys for watching. Let us know in the comments if you're interested in any of the watches mentioned in this video. Obviously once they come out we'll be able to source all of them, and let us know if you're interested in any other watches in the Swiss watch industry. We'd be happy to call it into stock for you and help you out.